Hello and welcome to the Isolation Podcast, the human story of the pandemic with your host, Jody Cooper. And today I would like to introduce you to my friend, Flavio. How you doing
Hello.
today, Flavio?
Yeah, nice talking to you. Nice seeing you. And
You too.
thanks for the invitation for the podcast talk.
No worries, no worries. Flavio, I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about the first days of the pandemic for you, how you were feeling, what sort of things happened, and maybe what was going through your mind.
Well, at first, just to talk about this whole thing is it's a nice way to still process it because it's still in some ways it's still not so much in the news anymore, but it's still around us. I'm still thinking, should I get the next vaccination? Should I what's the next winter gonna bring? So all these issues, and let's go back to I think it was end of February or like February 2020 when the whole thing came up in Germany, and I think the lockdown started at the beginning of March, as I can remember, something like
Mm.
this. And back then, it's like I just had played my last show with you in Leipzig at the Moritzbastei in January. So
Yeah,
uh,
so just for our audience here, Flavio and I, Flavio was in a band with me, my own band actually, and yeah, we played quite a few cool gigs together. And our last gig together was in January 2020.
yeah, playing the drums for you, and we had a great gig.
Mm,
Although not that many people came, but we had a really good time, and it was one of our best shows anyway.
yeah, definitely.
And yeah, but I'm lucky I got to play with you the last year and the year before when you came here to Bad Neustadt. But let's come back to that later. Um, to answer your question is I was with my family visiting my parents in a town nearby Stuttgart in Ulm. So it's like 2 hour, 2.5 hour drive from where I actually live. And so we're watching the news and see, wow, okay, we were out of kindergarten anyway, the kids, because we all were like sick. We all had like I don't remember, but we had everything you could get in those 5 weeks. So we
Oh,
have only planned to stay at my parents' place for like 1.5 weeks or so, and then we prolonged it for like I think it was like in the end it was almost a month, like 3 4 weeks, and yeah, watching the news, and we said, okay, let's just stay there for now and see how it develops and how is this lockdown even meant? Because you would always get all the information from the Tagesschau in the TV or from
mm,
internet, but in the end, it's like some things were really not unclear. We did not know like how to behave in those days. I was like,
yeah. I mean,
uh,
it's very easy to kind of look back on it now and think, yeah, this was life, but when it began, no one kind of knew what lockdown meant.
yeah, yeah. Am I allowed to go out or not? And if so, under what circumstances? Is yeah. Basically, what we did is not only in the beginning of the lockdown, but during the whole first 2 years of pandemic, like kind of caving in. It's like only one goes for shopping for one day a week, like just to minimize all the outside contact. When people came over, just let them be in front of the house door, and we would go out in the garden and always talk with distance. Like we were always very keen on keep distance between people. Like the whole thing that I always liked when I met people or either new people or also friends, like hugging and like actual contact with persons. We just didn't do that anymore, as anybody
Mm,
who saying would not do it. But back then it was not such of a bad experience because I was thinking, okay, it's only temporarily. Okay, let's do this all, and then we can safely move on. But nobody knew how long this is gonna take. So this is the thing. I think when I remember back, like it was rather easy to follow all those safety instructions as we went along. It's like the self-made masks, and then a year later we find out they always senseless because you need to have this other specific FFP2 mask or whatever.
mm,
So it's really all this, yeah, learning by doing, and yeah, in the end, like sometimes even smiling back, it's like how wrong some things were handled by politics or how one in all their life did some wrong things. But
mm.
then on the other hand, we didn't know better,
Yeah.
And it was still serious because we would always see in the news and also find out through friends of friends that people had died. It's like some parents of some work colleague of my wife had just died, because they were infected. And so it was this seriousness about this whole thing, which makes kind of like laughing about it now a little hard in my soul, because it's like if some people who say always, yeah, Corona, all those doubters and stuff. It's like when I always, when you do the body count on the other side and you remember those pictures from all these piles of dead bodies in Italy, for example, or in certain cities, it was just a really serious time of our lives. It's like
Yeah.
hell
Just
coming.
just for our listeners, maybe they would like to know that Flavio here is from Italy.
We're
And
not.
no?
I'm totally German, but my mother is from
Yeah,
Italy,
that's
and
what I meant. You have
yeah,
Italian heritage.
exactly, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I seem to remember Italy was hit really bad by the pandemic. Is that right?
yeah, exactly. That's one of
Mm,
the worst places. And then a year later, I think was Spain. And I think those all these Mediterranean countries really got their, how you say, their share of it. And in Germany, basically, we were really lucky. Like compared
mm,
to the outside world, compared to how many people died in the States or in Asia, like or in other countries of the world. I think we really, although many died here also, but compared the numbers, we were lucky.
I
And
think I mean, this is just me guessing, obviously, but
mm,
I wonder sometimes if there's a cultural element to the spread, because obviously in Germany people are quite reserved, and it must have been hard for you being, was it a quarter Italian?
no, I'm half 10.
You're half Italian, okay.
Yeah.
It must be a bit weird for you not being able to hug people, whereas in Germany that's probably quite normal for many because it's just part of the culture, First,
Mm.
traditional handshake, and then you have to get past that awkward moment. You're like, do I hug? Do I not hug?
It depends on your character, because I've
Yeah,
always been like the guy who was always not saying "see." I always like to say "do" to people. I
me
always,
too.
when I like somebody, even if I met him the first time, when I say bye in the night, I hug him or her. It's like, so for me it was a big loss. Like if I say social life was getting to big change,
Mm.
because yeah, basically you weren't able to go out anymore to anything, not a concert, not cinema, not anything cultural. So we all cave each other in. And I remember the first year of the pandemic, I was like, I always like to go to record stores, for example. And so the first year I was ordering all this kind of stuff. I completed my Queen vinyl collection. I completed all David Bowie, and so
Very
I
good.
got kind of like this was like getting this hobby of record collecting to a next level, which is now back to normal again. So I overdid it in during the pandemic time, but then on the other hand, everybody did something that it would usually not do, I guess.
Yeah.
Like for you, it was really hard because you've been dependent on playing shows, gigs and stuff, and nothing came in. So
Mm.
yeah, for me, being like musician but not financially dependent on it, I would say, yeah, I missed it a lot, or I'm still missing playing live, but I could live somehow without it.
Mm.
Now I'm always like looking when I come to Leipzig, like what are the shows? Can I see something? I'm kind of like hungry for it,
Wow.
and this yeah, this whole pandemic lockdown, I think it showed one that those things that you took for granted or that you said that was easy to do, like what concerns cultural life, there still were some big holes when this thing was missing. So
Yeah,
for
definitely.
me, for me, I must talk for me, because other people, they don't go out for two shows at all, and so they don't really miss that. But yeah, I think it would affect all of us in a way or another, and I'm still kind of hoping that maybe during my lifetime this will never come back again, something like this. But the chances are there, similar things gonna come. So because
Yeah.
the world's not gonna become a better place, it's gonna become worse. So, and I'm talking like I'm a optimist.
So am I. But
Anyway,
yeah, I'm also a realist, and yeah, I think you're right. I think without trying to sound doom and gloom, there's always that risk, there's always that danger that either we'll have another pandemic, or we'll have something else. That's just life, and I guess it's how we deal in these extreme situations defines us more than how we deal with just normal, in inverted commas, life.
Yeah, you find what you really should care for. It's like, honestly, I must say, one of the big, because I was always able to visit my parents if it was lockdown or not. We just decided, hey, we are a closed circle. They are the two of them, so we just go there, and if we pay attention, nothing will happen, and so we did. But what concerns my friends or my brother who lives in Leipzig too, that was a big loss for me because those people I would see really less throughout the year or not at all sometimes. Even this year now, pandemic is kind of over, but I only got to see my brother for a couple of days for the whole year, and
Wow.
that's a rather bad situation for me. But then I always think like, how is it for you? Your whole family lives abroad, so this must be something that you're used to, and for me, it's just something new.
Yeah. How would you say, Flavio, that the pandemic affected you personally, like on a personal level? Is there anything in particular that you noticed about yourself during that time that maybe you hadn't realized, or maybe you looked at yourself in a new way, or just specific challenges that you might have had?
Mhm. I think on a way to change my life anyway before that, but what it enforced is like looking how do I treat my own body? It's like how do I what do I eat? Because 5 years ago now, I think 6 years ago was when I became vegetarian. So yeah, of course, Corona has nothing to do with the things you're actually eating, but it has to do something with healthiness, contact with other people. How do I handle the situation if my kids are going to a kindergarten and basically they will bring home any disease which is there. So this was, I think, if I look at myself, I kind of survived it okay or well. But if I look at my two kids, I think they are the big losers of the pandemic. Like because all the people they were taking care of the vaccination, and you had some certain amount of safety then. But with the kids, nobody really knew how to handle a situation. You cannot send them to vaccinate if they're too young,
Mm.
and so because we were caving in ourselves, we didn't send them to uh, to kindergarten for almost the whole time. It's like we had planned to send them to kindergarten from January 2020. We've been in there like 3 weeks. Then they were all sick, and then the pandemic came, and so that year nobody went back again to kindergarten, and the year after that not at all. And last year we started, but then we decided to still wait, and it's this February 2, 2023, that finally they go into kindergarten, and now they turn 5. So I think like luckily they've been the two of them. They could interact, and I don't feel like they were missing out too much. But still, if I think of the whole, how has this affected my life, I'm always thinking it's sad that my kids were not able to make that many friends that they maybe normally would have made.
Mm.
This
And I think
something,
that was the case for many kids. In fact,
yeah,
I've heard from other people that even today there are parents who keep their kids out of kindergarten or
yeah,
school.
yeah. But at some point we had to decide, and then we said, okay, let's just do it now because it's like we cannot wait any longer.
Mm,
And yeah, and then thinking of my social life, kind of like yeah, since I'm not in Leipzig anymore, it all went down on a low flame anyway. So I could like kind of live with that or survive with that because I was just thinking, okay, I'm in the countryside now, and honestly, I'm really happy that we have moved away from Leipzig a year before the pandemic, not knowing what will come, but we had more space here. We have the big house and garden, as you know.
mm,
So it's like that was kind of what really made it, what's the word, erträglich, bearable, I think.
incredible, yeah.
Yeah, that we had this luxury here because in Leipzig we have yeah, rather small, and yeah, that would have been really hard for us.
Mm.
if I had to do like a list, the pros and contra, of course, always you never want a pandemic, but what are the good sides of it? I will come back to that later, like because there actually it really is. There was some things which made life easier for us in some way because of the pandemic. But yeah, for example, yeah, living in a household with three generations, being locked down. So we had some issues or encounters with which got pretty hectic at some point, and we really had to search for help from the outside. I would not say it was like a therapy, but it was a way to get some third opinion from the outside to look at our situation. How can we handle stuff with mother-in-law and a family with two young kids?
Mm.
It's like a boiling pot sometimes, and if sometimes it comes down to it, sometimes I was accused. Uh, I felt like it's my fault that nobody can go out, but it was the pandemic lockdown, you know. It's like we were really having trouble sometimes back then, and I lost my temper a couple times. So I was thinking maybe it has something to do with this cabin fever thing, and not behaving like you maybe would have thought you would behave in a normal time.
Mm.
So I think maybe that was affecting me too. But I don't want to blame the pandemic for it. Maybe it was just the situation of us, how we live here. It's a combination of it, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lockdown, cabin fever, and then family organizational thing in this kind of setup that we have here. But it
Mm.
became better through the years, and especially this year we have this in-house changings that made life more enjoyable again. So.
Mm. That's
Yeah,
good.
the guest room is gone, by the way. Next time you come, you have to sleep in another place, like another place of the house. But it will, yeah, I think it will only be better or become better from now on, I think.
Mm.
Because if not the next pandemic is around the corner, then things loosen up again. We make friends through our kids. You know, they have friends at the kindergarten and their parents. Some of them are really on a level that I like to say that I could see myself becoming more befriended with those people.
Mm.
So that's yeah, a good thing about that the pandemic is over.
Mm.
And yeah, if you don't have the specific question, I would just like go back to the thought, what was really cool about Corona pandemic, because as you know, business-wise, we always have to go every year to different fairs, Messe. Yeah, one is the Hannover Messe in April, or the big Medica in Düsseldorf, which is in November. So 2020 and 2021, all those business fairs were called off, and so we had this unexpected free time, you know, and nobody had to go there. Of course, we had some, how do you say, what's the word? Einbußen, like losses money-wise, you know,
Yeah.
like because on the other end, business was not going so good anymore. But looking at those stressy moments, whenever we have to go there, we always, since the kids are here, we're always taking them with us, and that's a big strategic organizational hassle, you know, to get all, because I have to bring them along, and then we have to find a way that Simone is dealing with some customers, and I take care of the kids, or I go and see some people in some halls, and then she has to take care of the kids. So my wife and I are, if we think back, are really blessed to have had this experience that 2 years without those fairs was also cool, you know? But
Yeah.
then, yeah, we also in a way are happy that they are happening again because it's better for the business, you know?
Mm.
As an experience from those coming back to those fairs, it's like when we were talking to people, they always said, yeah, when something is not there, you really realize how it's important that it is there when it's happening again. You know, it's like,
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Flavio, if there was any particular things about the pandemic that were difficult for you and your family.
well, of course, it was the whole issue of traveling. Like, should we go somewhere? How do we get there? Because you don't want to use trains or something. So we were lucky to have a car, and it's like yeah, any kind of plans. Like I remember when it came to the first summer during the pandemic, when things you we're hoping that things come better, that should we go to holiday or not? Is it the right time to do that if the world is like kind of like going, it's burning, or is all this other country, because it was the news, if it's not our country, it's the other countries which get it, and we never knew is this gonna be coming back worse, and as it did, the first year there was this like if you go like this, and then the summer was nice, and then
Yeah.
it became really bad winter coming up, and we knew that by then you could already like have the feeling, okay, let's enjoy the summer as much as possible, go out as much. And I really remember I had this that kind of like almost like tears in my eyes when that summer was over, because I knew it's going to become different again. The kids cannot play anymore outside with other kids, and you don't want them to go to into other households because all these restrictions, with distance. And
Mm.
yeah, that was really hard. Like, I think I remember we even bought like two outside ovens so that if people would come over, we could like still be in front of the house, the door, but have this heating that nobody would have to suffer the cold. What do I remember? It's like, yeah, I think during the whole pandemic time, one thing which really I was kind of really angry, and it was really one of the bad decisions of politics. Like, why the hell would all these people be allowed to go with masks into this how you say food stores, and then they would not allow a small bookshop or a record shop to open their doors when there's not that many people going in there anyway. So
Yeah.
this unlogical thing, it's like a lockdown, but if you do it, you always have this exception, and one of the big exception was that people, of course, need to go be able to buy their food. So all those big shops which were selling food, they kind of like the winners because they would not lose customers. And then you had this all the smaller shops which were like really dependent on a few people which come in only a day, and those had to close. And this was the most one of the most unlogical restrictions of the whole pandemic. And it's like the same thing with theaters or concert places when already in the beginning they had concepts like how can we do it without audience or only with a few people, and then we like there was all these ideas, and politics would really be really slow or really in the way, and
Mm.
that's something really but then on the other hand I don't want to blame them now because it was the first time and nobody knew better.
Yeah.
But something I really was disturbed, like in Bad Neustadt we have this little market place, and then some shops were allowed to open, some were closed. This was not logical to me. This was really too much of a. I think this was, if I want to talk bad about it, was one of those very German, uh, bürokratisch things. It's like if we do this, we do this right, and then we do it like it's said, although nobody asks behind the thought what is really making sense and what not. Yeah, it's like those unlogical things which were in the news, also in all day life. That's what pissed me off a little during
Mm.
the whole. But then because it was such a long time, you got used to all that stuff. And the big winners of the pandemic is like a delivery service like Amazon. It's like
Yeah.
I mean, no, nobody was earning more money than them because
Oh
everybody
no.
would order, and then all small shops would like die out. And I was really sad about yeah,
Mm.
this loss in a way. Yeah.
So, since we've had some of the negative aspects, I was wondering if you'd like to talk about any positive things or changes that came out for you or your family, either during the pandemic or after the pandemic.
Well, as I said before, like this whole feeling of getting this thing like certain freedom back again, that you know how to value it more than before. And before you took things for granted,
Mm.
then some things are missing, like the freedom of having to do anything, and it's like the feeling of fragility because you don't know when is the next thing gonna come around the corner. Is it next year? Is it this year? Or is it Corona? Is it something else? Like we've all lost a certain belief in goodness. It's like although I'm very optimistic, I've become more skeptical. So for example, I'm somebody who is not running that often to the doctors, but in the pandemic times, we did the decision, let's just do this. vaccination thing, just for the sake of it. They found that stuff now. Let's just see. Maybe it's better than nothing, you know. And then throughout all the time you hear all these pros and contras, you know, the doubters and the
Mm.
anything. But then we decided for that kind of way, and everybody had to decide it differently, you know, because in the end, if somebody didn't want to get vaccinated, I didn't want to judge over them because they might have had their reasons, you know, either
Oh.
physical reasons or just like because they were thinking that way. That so yeah, if I think back, like I've become more open towards vaccination stuff like this. You know, it's like I always think like if the doctors and scientists are developing something, it's not only because they want to sell. It's because they want to do something maybe good for the humankind.
Yeah.
So let's just try it. You know, it's like I'm adult, so I can yeah, in a way I can be like a what's the word? Versuchskaninchen, like a
A guinea pig.
nitpick. Yeah, myself that's okay. For my kids it's different, but it's like trying things out to eat or other things. If I don't try it, I don't know if it's really working or not. And
Mm.
I've made some good experiments what concerns that because we think in the meantime that my wife has had more times corona than I because I'm vaccinated one more time. I've had like 4 vaccinations and she's got only 3.
Mm.
And my body system is maybe more, how do you say, what's the word? Has more power, you know, than hers, like different body, different abilities. Yes, I'm really missing some English words and I'm see. I should talk more often to you, Jody. It's like
Yeah, definitely.
I have all this German, all these words lying on my tongue in German, but if it comes to specific emotions or feelings or like specific ways to describe how did I feel, I'm really missing some words right now here.
Ah,
Yeah, but
interesting. So, Flavio, did you take up any new hobbies or learn new skills during the pandemic?
like I must say, unfortunately, not because I wish I would have done more with that free time, you know, like but yeah, it's maybe it's because the time in my life is like with 2 young kids, you don't have time for certain things anyways. You know, it's like not that much did change because even if I would live in Leipzig or a big town with a lot of cultural events, I would not have been able to go too much
Mm.
because I have to be like the family father that I am.
Mm.
And like as I want to read so many books. I have a shelves of piles of books I want to read. I never get around to do it. Like I don't want to even ask you. Like when was the last book you read from beginning to end? It's like talking about new hobbies. Like I must say, it's like it's rather like I know what I still want to do. Like I want to go more with the bike or more into the nature and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, I've had not really big changes throughout the pandemic. Like it was
Mm.
more like trying to live your life like it was before that, but with all the changing coming in. So maybe that's why I didn't do any changings for myself because I was already like dealing with the how do I make this fit, you know, my life how it was before and with this new incoming things. So, but then on the other hand, I wish we would have used it more in a way for
Mm.
skills like. But yeah, then on the other hand, my interests are rather limited sometimes. Like I always thinking, as a drummer, do I want to learn other instruments? And I was thinking, like, maybe if the time is ripe and one of my kids wants to learn piano, for example, yeah,
Ah,
then I would like then I would have this extra uh what's the English word? This extra
skills.
accelerating thing, yeah, Antrieb. You know, it's like something which accelerates you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
That you do something, you know. It's like when you do it only for yourself, I think, oh well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, Flavio, was there any valuable lessons that you learned from or during the pandemic?
I think it's just what anybody learned, like to cherish more your all day life. And next day could be even worse, you know. It's like thinking, yeah, this is the state of mind I was in. It's like now it's coming all this in the beginning, especially of the pandemic. It's all this. bad news coming in, even worse, and then how do we handle this and that? And it's like, okay, let's try to live day to day, like day from day, like how you say, from one day to another,
Yeah.
to hope that things will not become even worse. And we had this, we had these moments where you could take a breath, like that one first summer, as I told you before, like everybody I think was feeling like that. And then like when 1.5 years later, then you still find out that in autumn, when the vaccination was there, after the first year, they started all the vaccination and people were vaccinated, and still people got sick. And then you think, oh my God, it's never gonna end, because it's like it's always something new coming up. So I think I learned to, yeah, to value the moment more. It's
Mm.
like also looking at my life with the kids, it's like as they grow up, half a year later you watch the old pictures and you see how much changes happen in their look or in their ways. And yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm optimistic. I mean, I always like them more, even like, because sometimes people say, oh, when my kids were small and babies, but I think I love them every day more because they are growing and becoming more, I say, smart. Yeah, there's
Mm.
really, like, I can totally see that smartness growing in their heads. And it's like sometimes I'm astonished because they ask questions I cannot really answer, and I always think, oh, wow, what a great question, because everybody should ask themselves this. So
Yeah.
this
Well, they
is
see the
something.
world differently to us, so they're able to ask these kind of questions which just don't
Mm.
occur to us.
And to be honest, although it was really hard to see how we were not able um, to fulfill these plans with how we would want to bring the kids to kindergarten and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I was really happy that I had, or that I have this family around me during these really weird times. Because if I think I would be single in a big town like Berlin, maybe doing music or not doing music, but just doing your own whatever you did back then without having a partner or family, my life would have been, I think, more sad. Even if I would have maybe not known it, because status quo is either you are single or you have family. But I'm really happy that I was able to share my life in these lockdown moments, to not being trapped in a room all by yourself alone, but to have the loved ones around you. And I think that's a blessing, actually. I must say I'm really happy for that. And the same thing for you, I guess, and the other people who have families in exactly that time.
Yeah.
Because if you can't go to see that many friends, family outside of your bubble, but at least your bubble is bubbly enough that you have this fun moments, and not saying that people cannot have fun when they're on their own, but I think it's because human beings are interaction and uh, yeah, bodies.
Yeah,
We
we're social creatures.
social creatures or interactional bodies in my language. Yeah, that's why I'm really happy this if I look back, that I had this possibility to share this time with my friends, with my family.
Yeah. I know personally that if it hadn't been for my family, I probably would have gone a bit crazy during
Mm-hmm.
the
Exactly.
pandemic.
You,
So yeah, Flavio, would you say your life is different now since the pandemic is over? And if so, in what way?
I would just say no, it's not different. It's because we have this big experience we had in between the last 3 years. But luckily, health-wise, I'm just kind of the same person as I was before. I don't have any long COVID injuries or stuff like that. So concerning that, if I look at my life, we have this experience, and we take good or bad stuff out of it. But my life now is, I think it's rather okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like it's, yeah, luckily. So because I'm always thinking of those people who really had corona for a couple of weeks or months and didn't recover. It's like,
Hmm.
also in your case, I mean, of course you had it a couple of times, but looking at you now, you look okay, and this is
Yeah.
why. Is it different now? And not really. It's we have had this nightmare that we woke up from, and now we move on. And if I break it down to the yes and no thing, I think no, it's
Okay.
different.
I'd just like to say thank you very much, Flavio, for joining me today. It's been great having
Welcome.
you. And thank you to you, the audience, for tuning into this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you would like to get involved, simply head on over to my website, jodycoopermusic.com. Click on the Contact tab, leave your details there, and I'll get back in touch with you. If you would like to take part in a funny pandemic-related quiz, simply click on the tab What's Your Story on my website. There you can answer various questions, and if you manage to get all the questions right, at the end you can win a prize from me. If you would like to find out more about me and my music, you can also join my mailing list from my website. All you have to do is leave your details, and as a special thank you, I will send you 5 of my original songs, plus 5 videos which explain the meaning behind those songs. Bye for now.